All right, how's she going, eh? Got a little bit done today, not as much as I planned, but I'm gonna pack her in here. I put a few hours in. Um, Looks like a little bit of rain in these clouds, but maybe not too bad. We could use it. We had rain every day until about 2 weeks ago, and now we haven't had much of any, and it's been fairly warm for up here, and things are getting dry. The temp is today. Well, it's cooled off a bit. It was over 80 earlier, but anyhow, I got the fuel system kind of not mocked up. So I'm going to put a 3/8 90, a fitting 90 in, pointed towards the passenger side. And here's my fuel line. It's braided. So this is what I did. What else did I do? Oh, I got my gauges mounted now. They worked out alright. They kind of suit the car. They're fairly old. Alright, so fuel system. Got a little bit of old shitty gas in there, as you can see. And I hooked my pump up to it, and there's really nothing left, so we're just going to call her good. I don't have time to be pulling fuel tanks and filling them full of old chains and shaking the shit out of them and that. But a little trick is, so I had this old shitty pump kicking around. Actually, it's not old, but it is shitty. And I just hooked it up to the battery and pumped out what there was, and there's not much in it. If you don't have a pump, or you're scared you're going to blow yourself up because of sparks, a little trick I learned from a fellow guy from Alberta, zip ties and bias plies. I seen him do it in his last video, and I thought it was genius. So what he did is he took a hose, no pump, and he cut a slit in it, like about here. He cut a slit, just a little slit. And what he did is he took a air nozzle for an air compressor, and he put it through the slit and pointed it out. And by giving it air, it creates a venturi kind of effect, or a siphon. So air blows out this way. Well, if it's coming out, something has to come in, and it draws the fuel out, so you don't have to worry about sparks. And it worked like a son of a bitch. So I thought that was awesome. So if you guys ever need to siphon out a tank, you got some hose, cut a slit in it, put your air compressor nozzle in, and give it to her, feed her the beans, and it will siphon out like you would not believe. The only guy I've ever seen do that, and I thought it was just genius. But what we're gonna do, I got the fuel pump kind of mounted. I made a bracket, goes up there. You want your fuel pump at least lower than your tank, always. And any fuel pump is recommended at least 100 micron filter, which is pretty much a screen like you'd have in your screen door. I would recommend a 40. The reason they don't recommend a 40 micron is because of restriction on the inlet. But it isn't so much the micron size, it's the size of the filter. If you have a little tiny filter like this, it's going to be restrictive. If you have a big canister filter that's 40 micron, it isn't going to restrict it at all because there's so much filter media there. So run a filter. I'm going to put a valve on it too, because if you have to change the filter, I like to valve it off because it will siphon itself out. So I'm going to put off the, if you can see it, the hose is hooked there for now. That's just temporary. I'm going to run rubber hose, valve, fuel filter, just a plastic one. Reason being is I can see when it's filled, and it's on the suction side, so it really doesn't matter too much as far as I'm concerned. And then into the pump, then out of the pump with my braided. I'll tie it into the steel line here, and then I tied it into the steel line there. So one thing I do is, if you're tying into a fuel line that does not have a barb, I put double hose clamps on always. And put your hose clamps on like that, one each way. If you're running a well pipe or anything like that on the farm, you do it the same way with your farmer fittings. You put dual hose clamps the opposite direction. That's a good little trick. So run it up to that, and then I'd recommend I'd recommend the filter up here of about at least 10 micron filter, but a big one, 5 micron would be even better. And I like to put it before the regulator. Reason being, if there's any restriction in the filter, you're getting it on the high pressure side of the regulator, therefore it'll flow better. So that's, and plus it cleans it before it goes to the regulator itself. So that's what I do. What else can I say about fuel systems? That's pretty much it. Use a 40 on the back before the pump, and use a 5 or 10 on the high pressure side before the regulator close to the carburetor. A lot of guys I see on YouTube use those Mr. Gasket glass fuel filters. Don't use those things. They don't filter fuck all, for one. They're prone to leaking and burn your car down. You can't have a glass one at the track to begin with. They were a piece of junk 40 years ago when everyone ran them, never mind now. So get yourself a real filter. You want a steel filter for on the outlet of the pump if you are. So either get a Fram big canister one with a big element and they have a screw in the bottom, or just go to Napa and get a 3/8 fuel filter, but make sure it's a steel one. But like I say, I like to put a clear one on the inlet of the pump because it's only under vacuum anyhow, and then I can see what's going on if it's plugged. But yeah, coming along pretty good, I guess. I'm gonna go to the hardware store tomorrow and get some fittings and stuff, and get the fuel system plumbed. I'm gonna put some clips and run it up here in the corner to keep it away from the heat, and then I'm gonna run it along the fender in here, and then I'll come up across. That way it's away from the heat. And any places like this where it can rub, I like to take a piece of heater hose and put heater hose over top of it, even if you just cut a slit in it down the side, wrap it, and then put some zip ties on. Good enough. It just keeps things from chafing and a little bit of safety, and yeah. And if your fuel line is close to your exhaust, you have no choice. I'd get almost like those spark plug boot wraps, those insulated wraps, and put it around there to prevent vapor locking, fire, you know, all sorts of shit. But yeah, everything's going good. I think I have an underdrive pulley I think I'm going to put on the crank just to get a little more out of her. For what this is, it should still turn the water pump fast enough, and the alternator, I hope. But yeah, things are coming along pretty good. And I'm going to put my line lock in, so I'll probably mount the line lock somewhere here, and I'll run the lines to it and back. That's my plan. So I got a little bit done on as much as I planned, but I still moving forward. So all right. Oh, there's that piece of shit dipstick tube. It's going to be a real fun one to fill. Might have to take the day off work to fill the tranny up because it goes through such a little pissy hole. It's got like a little urethra on the end of it. But yeah, I'll work on it a little bit tomorrow, and I'm going to tidy the garage up because it looks like a friggin' boar's nest. Like a cyclone went through it. So, alright, have a good one, guys. Till next time.